Premature as it might be to say this, George Russell's test for Mercedes this week in Hungary feels like an early reunion. The current Williams driver was put on 2022 tyre testing duties for Mercedes and Pirelli at the Hungaroring on the Tuesday after the Hungarian Grand Prix. Russell completed 137 laps testing the low-profile tyres and their 18-inch wheels just as F1 heads into its summer break and Mercedes is due to make a decision on who will drive for the team in 2022. Is it a coincidence? Well, is anything like this ever really a coincidence in F1? Not really. Let us know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoy this video you can hit the like button at any time. But let's get into it. This test is all about conducting Pirelli's work for its 2022 tyres. But why pick Russell? Mercedes originally had 3 2022 tyre tests planned, one each at Imola, Paul Ricard and the Hungaroring. Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas completed the first at Imola, but Mercedes withdrew from the second. Maybe Bottas wasn't available for this final test, or maybe Russell was picked just so the 3 days ended up split across the 3 drivers. As we'll get into, he has been a very useful testing option before. So there is a scenario here where Russell's test outing really does have nothing to do with Mercedes' 2022 driver decision. But come on, is anyone really buying that? After all, Hamilton doesn't like testing unless he sees good reason for it. Any kind of understanding of the 2022 tyres is beneficial, even in this testing phase when the team is doing it blind. That's to say it doesn't have control of its own program and doesn't know what tyre is being used at any given time. Whenever Russell's been drafted in for Mercedes in the past, it's been for different reasons. He was a young driver they wanted to seriously evaluate, and at times he has also helped Mercedes satisfy rules that require teams to put young drivers in the car for certain tests. What Russell has never previously done is test for Mercedes with a chance of racing for the team next season, let alone conducting work that could be useful for him. That's why it's tough to imagine conducting 2022 work right when a decision is expected on Mercedes' 2022 driver lineup is simply coincidence. If this is a precursor to Russell's Mercedes future, then the Hungaroring is a fitting place for it. It was there that Russell had his first full F1 test with Mercedes in 2017, and he tested there again with Mercedes in 2018, setting the unofficial lap record during a break from his title-winning Formula 2 season. The 2018 test came just as Russell was building serious momentum. He said the job he was doing was putting pressure on Mercedes boss Toto Wolff to find him a seat in Formula 1. Back-to-back titles in GP3 and F2 were at the centre of Russell's case, but increasingly impressive test outings were also valuable, as his speed, consistency and maturity were all being noted by Mercedes, for whom Russell was also acting as a reserve and development driver in 2018. It worked, as Russell would go on to be confirmed as a 2019 Williams driver. But 2018 was about more than just getting Russell to F1. It was key to Russell creating the foundations of the Mercedes relationship he has now. Russell's been a Mercedes protege since 2017 and tested its car in 6 official Formula 1 sessions across 3 seasons since then. In such outings, Russell was trying to prove he was quick, smart, adaptable and dependable enough to complete the work Mercedes needed him to. Russell's test outing this week completes a neat circle as it puts him back in the role that set him on the path to a Mercedes seat in the first place. But now his qualities are well established, so while the job was very similar at this test from a professional point of view, as he needed to do everything that was asked of him in a competent way, on a personal level it was totally different. At this point, there's surely nothing for Russell to do to win Mercedes over, and there's nothing Mercedes will have learned from this test about Russell that it didn't already know. If we are to believe that Mercedes had not made its 2022 driver decision before the Hungarian Grand Prix, then the 2 candidates could not have made more contrasting pitches to be Hamilton's teammate next year. Bottas made a costly error into turn 1, skittling 3 other cars and ending his race immediately. Yes, 2 of the cars involved were Red Bulls, and Red Bull boss Christian Horner dryly noted that Bottas had done a great job for Mercedes. Sergio Perez was forced to retire, and Hamilton's title rival Max Verstappen had so much damage he barely made it back into the points, and Hamilton and Mercedes took the lead of both championships. But we can't believe Bottas' error was anything other than a foolish misjudgment in damp conditions. And we don't think Mercedes would have privately patted him on the back either. This was a race in which Bottas fell short of the standard required, especially as it undid an ideal qualifying performance in which Bottas had split Hamilton and Verstappen and should have taken points off the Red Bull driver anyway. Conversely, Russell cashed in on the first corner chaos and finally scored an emotional first points finish for Williams. His jubilant and briefly tearful post-race reaction was quite the opposite of Bottas' solemn, apologetic stance. Bottas doubts one race will be decisive, and of course he should hope he's right, otherwise the Hungarian Grand Prix couldn't have gone any worse from his perspective. Unfortunately for Bottas, the likeliest scenario in which Hungary makes no difference to Mercedes' decision is one in which the decision has already been made. Bottas goes into the break with his season at its lowest ebb, but it has been pretty difficult for a while. He only has 55% of Hamilton's points tally, which is worse than any previous season, after a first half of 2021 that could be generously described as mixed. While Russell's stock is still on the rise, Bottas' stock is dipping. There have been examples of good teamwork and a few good results, especially in qualifying, but that is barely the least Mercedes can expect of one of its drivers in a title-challenging car. And as we approach the Mercedes driver lineup equivalent of D-Day, all signs really are only pointing in one direction. But what do you reckon? Does Russell's test mean anything, and what impact should the Hungarian Grand Prix events have on Mercedes' decision? Let us know in the comments, give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and if you're new here or just haven't yet been tempted into subscribing to our channel, hit the big red button and we'll do everything we can to make it worth your while with our future videos.